So let's say you are a mother, then your kids, I assume your kids are in the top three, hopefully number one or number two, and the most important things in your life. Maybe it's your career or your wealth building. Maybe it's your goal or your dream. I would pick those like top three things that really matter. And then at that point, anything that enters your orbit, anything you get involved with, anything you do, whatever, has to somehow connect, correlate, pour into, or at least not distract from those core things that matter. Do you understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense? So, and by doing that, what you're doing is you're being energy efficient. You're also minimizing these conflicts and minimizing the probability that something new is going to destroy the things that are most valuable to you. Because again, I can tell you, I know more than one person who was doing amazing things in their career, but literally got killed by their spouse. And in my three examples I'm thinking about, it was a man killing a woman. I don't know a lot of men who got killed by women. I do know scenarios where women were killed by men. And in every single one of these one, two, three scenarios, all three of these women were incredibly successful in their careers. One was a professor who was winning awards. Another one was Robin Simpson down in Houston. Look it up. That case is still ongoing. She's part of the B1 community. She's come to the convention. Robin Simpson in Houston, who was the head of her chapter at Delta Sigma Theta. She was like some high-ranking official at a hospital she was in, but she couldn't get out of this crazy marriage, and eventually he stabbed her 100 times in front of their daughter. So you're talking about major generational curse right there. And then another one was a woman who was making about $6 million a year, who decided to date a guy who worked for the person that worked for her. So she I guess went in this direction of saying, well, I don't want to be uppity, so I'm going to pick this man because he's a nice guy. And unfortunately, he had some issues. He'd been incarcerated. He used to have a drug issue. The hard thing about drugs, and the reason I hate drugs, is because drugs kind of haunt you. It's they like some people say that you're never not a drug addict anymore. You just have to avoid being re-triggered to go back into that space. So he ended up having, this is true story. He ended up having a hard time. He wasn't succeeding in his business or whatever, and he went back to the drugs. And next thing you know, yeah, one day he shoots her while she was getting in the car driving away, and he shot her as she was getting. It was that kind of thing. And this woman was a multimillionaire, doing extremely well. And in those scenarios, it I would be curious to know what a therapist would have to say about the choices that were made in the relationship. Like maybe there was a deficiency in some other area. Maybe it's like a daddy issue or something that might cause you to pick a certain kind of person. Like for example, they say that you date and you marry people that are very similar to your opposite sex parent. I didn't even know that that was true until I was like 45 years old. When I was almost 50 years old, I kid you not, my mother and my wife took a picture together, and I said, "Oh my God, they look alike, and they're in the same profession. They're both social workers." Oh, right. And then I thought about it, and I said, "Oh, that's right." And Alicia's father was a professor like me. So that little stuff. So let's say your dad was a drug addict, or your dad was an absentee bum, a buffoon, or your mother was a hooker. Whatever. It's like, oh man. So you got a whole big pile of issues that have to be worked through, or at least triggers that you have to watch out for, right? So you don't fall back into that trap. I had a friend, this is another funny story. He's really smart, and he's like a really successful scholar. And he's made a lot of money. He's just done really well in almost everything. And I asked him one time, I said, "Hey, how you doing, man? How you been?"